Okay, this is my version of Egan's Frenchie. It's pretty much the same as any other Egan's Frenchie, but it's a little bulkier if you ask me. It doesn't have quite the taper. I'm using a size 18 jig hook with a bead on it and red thread. I'll also be using a goose feather for the tail and then a pheasant tail for the body. And then we'll use gold wire and some dubbing. So we'll get this thread started. And cut the excess off. Then we'll jump right into the goose feather. And I'll get about 3 quills, I believe. I don't want much of this because these feathers are fairly big and thick, so you don't want to get like 10 or 12. Sometimes you'll do that with a pheasant tail, get 8, 10, 12. But on this, I just do, I believe, 3 of them. And we'll just slide that right under the thread. Pull it to the length we want. And get a few wraps in. We'll go ahead and cut the rest off that we don't need. And then we get right into the gold wire. I'll cut a pretty good length off just so that you have plenty of wire to work with. The shorter you go, the harder it is, so I usually cut a good length off. I'm actually going to wire this into the bead head. And then once we have that in, we'll go ahead and grab about 4 pieces of the pheasant tail. Sometimes I'll go with more if you want to make the body a little thicker. If you want to make it fairly thin and kind of let the thread shine through, you can go with 1 or 2 and just wrap it a little thinner. But here we're going with 4, and pretty much covers the whole body without any of the thread coming through on it. So we'll tie the tips in. Which obviously I have a little trouble doing. But we'll get those tied in there. Then we'll take our thread back to where we want the body to start. And I usually like going to basically the start of the curve of the hook. And then I try and even out the body a little bit. It's okay to have these little pieces kind of hanging off because you're going to cover them up with the pheasant tails anyway. So, and then I just whip finish it just to keep that thread out of the way. And then we start wrapping the pheasant tail. You can see on the back end I kind of left a little bit of that red thread showing, and I actually kind of like that. It just gives a little pop to the fly. Then we'll wrap those in up near the bead. Not too close to the bead because we still got some dubbing to put in, and we have to whip finish on the front. But we'll cut the excess off, and then we'll take our gold wire and we'll go the opposite direction of the way we wrap the pheasant tail. And we'll spread this wire out quite a bit so it's not really tight. Basically just holding the body down and making it nice and strong and giving it a little gold flash. So we'll take that up to the same spot. We'll wrap it in. I usually like to get 2 wraps behind and then a few in front, and then we helicopter that off. Now we're going to grab our dubbing, and you can really go with any color you want here. I've done these with green, olive, brown. This one I want a little lighter and a little more flashy. So I'm using the same type of dubbing that I'd use on like a Rainbow Warrior, just to get a little more flash in it. And we'll wrap that in pretty thick. You'll see there's a lot of stuff kind of hanging off. I pull that back. That way we can get wraps in front of all of it without anything sticking forward. You'll see a few small ones sticking forward, but it's not a big deal. And then after we get that wrapped in, we will basically do our double whip finish. I always do one with 2 wraps. Tighten that down, and then my second one I'll go 3 wraps. You really don't need much more than that. This will keep everything tightened down nice and solid. And we'll cut our thread off, and then I'll just go through real quick and trim up all the excess dubbing that's kind of hanging off. I don't like a lot on this fly. You can have a little bit kind of hanging off, but I like to get rid of all those long ones that are kind of just kicking everywhere. And sometimes you can get this done pretty quick. You can tell that I spent some time trying to trim it up nice and neat. Again, I don't like a lot hanging off here. Sometimes they're all hard to get to. Obviously, I'm struggling a little getting them all, but it's not the end of the world if you leave a few hanging off there. And then just to finish this fly up, I've got a little hard head from Loon that I put on the top, and that just makes sure that my knot is nice and solid and just gives a little bit of shininess to the top. Doesn't work quite the same way as like the UV glue. More than anything, it just locks it down. Thanks for watching, guys, and like and share. We'll see you next time.